To start creating a Filepro database, you have to get into the program somehow. We're going to assume that you have an icon on your desktop that takes you into Filepro. You will see this is a standard XP, very old style computer, but it has an icon to get me into Filepro, and it also has an icon to get me into Filepro on a different operating system. This is the Filepro that would be done on a Windows. It's on the Windows machine, and there's the Filepro menu. And if I wanted to be on a Linux machine, I can log into a Linux machine through another icon, this one here, and it also brings up Filepro. Two completely different platforms. Filepro is multi-platform. It works on Windows, it works on Unix, it works on Linux, it works on AIX, an older operating system from IBM, all sorts of things. And it's completely portable, meaning if you write an application on any one of these systems, let's say you write an application on Windows, you can very easily, with very minor adjustments, move it to a Linux system. You have need to upscale or scale down one way or the other. That's very easy to do with Filepro because it is portable. Now, going into define files is the first thing you would do. You would define a Filepro file. Now remember, Filepro is a database. It's not just one file. It's a collection of files. There are screens, there are menus to it, there are output formats so you can print on paper all your data that you're collecting, whatever your application does. We are going to create an actual Filepro file, and that will take care of the individual files it has to make. By going into define files, it's actually going to create a small file called the map. The map tells Filepro, the map file tells Filepro what the names of your fields are, how long each field is, how many characters it can accept, what type of data it can accept. Maybe it can only accept a date, or maybe it can only accept uppercase characters and so forth. Filepro allows you to set all this up through define files. Now you might notice that on some of these files, they're all starting with the same couple characters. Like here's a group starting with NEX. They have NEX this and that, NEX GLCOA, NEX GLTH. That could stand for something. You're building a group of files that all start with the same letters, so that as they become a bigger and bigger full-fledged database, you might want to move them to another system or another computer. You could actually use a wildcard starting with NEX to do that, and you'd get every single file that has to do with that particular application. There are some applications that are starting with UPS. Maybe you want to do something for that particular program or whatever. This is just a way to manipulate files easily if you have them all starting with the same letters. It's just a very conventional thing to do. Let's go to the very top of the program here. I moved up to the top by hitting the home key, and I'm going to hit new. Now that allows me to type in a new name for this database. Well, let's start with something that we'll build an entire application to work with customers. We'll allow for sending them invoices. We'll allow for tracking invoices they send to us. We'll allow for every kind of thing you can do with a customer. Well, what's the first thing you want to keep on file? That would probably be the customer name, the customer address, a contact for the customer, phone number, fax, etc., etc., etc. Well, we have to give it a name. Let's give it a couple letters that we can, or couple letters we can always start our group of files with. We all have very good companies, and we all are very good organizations. Why don't we start with VG? Could be anything you want. Could be ABC, or could be, you don't have to really start with 3 letters or 2 or anything. You could call your first database Fred, and your second database Mary, and your third one, Alfalfa. It doesn't matter. But we're going to try and stay a little bit organized. So let's start with the VG, and I'm going to put an underscore there, and let's just call it customers. Okay, VG underscore customers. This is going to be the file or database that holds the name, and so forth, address of our customers. Now, the first screen Filepro presents you with is this going to be a file profile or a non-file profile? Let's talk about a non-file profile later on and maybe an advanced section. It's just another way that Filepro allows you to point to files that don't come from Filepro. They're actually called alien files. It may come from another database or another text file or something else. You can pull in some files using that function, and we'll get to that eventually. But from now on, we're just going to go in through and create an actual file profile or database. And the first thing we're asked is, do we want a password? If you're working in an environment where there might be people who could go in and muck around with your files and your programs, then you, of course, want to put a password on it. And for our purposes, I'm going to leave this blank. Okay, this is the screen that you're presented with when you want to create a new file. It's just a form. You get to the things by hitting enter. You can get to each of the columns by hitting enter, or you could press the back arrow, or if you press the right arrow, you of course stay in that field. If you hit the arrow when you're right near the end of the field, it's going to take you over to the next field. Up and down arrows work the same. Down, up, so forth. You can, as the bottom of the field, bottom of the screen will tell you that you can jump to a field number and so forth. Now, Filepro names all of its fields. I mean, it numbers all of its fields 1 through 999. You can have 999 fields per record in a Filepro database. They are also named. They have a field heading or a field name. So you can refer to them either as that number, like number 1 or number 37 or number 999, or you can refer to them as whatever you put in this field heading. I'm going to name, we need a name for a contact for our company. Let's call it name first. And let's hit enter and go over here and say that. It might have up to 10 characters in it. William, Frederick, I mean, you can pretty much get every first name with 10 characters. This field over here that's listed as type, I'm going to leave that for another discussion a little further on. Let's do last name, except I'm going to put it backwards, and I'm going to put last. And last names up to 15. You usually can get pretty much every last name with 15 characters. And then I suppose we would put the company name. And companies, some are pretty long. We'll put 30 characters for a company name. Let's give it address. And again, 30 characters for that. Let's give the possibility of two addresses. See what I did there? I typed some wrong stuff. Now you notice how I got rid of that? I pressed the F2 key. I typed in some stuff I didn't want, so I can just go over where I want and I can press F2 to get rid of it. There's another thing you can do. If I'm over here, instead of pressing F2, I want to press F1. That pushes stuff to the right. F2 sucks stuff up to the left, and F1 pushes stuff to the right. But okay, I've got an address field. Let's put another address field. 30, okay, and then we'll put the city. Cities can be pretty much done in 15 characters. I've seen some with 17, 18, but 15 will be enough for us now. State, 2 characters. Every state, at least in America, can be done with 2 characters. Ohio is OH, Pennsylvania is PA, and so forth. Zip, let's use the 5-character zip. There is a longer one, and we'll get into showing that a little bit later and what you can do with that. Let's see, after zip, I suppose we want a phone number. I will tell you that the way Filepro formats phone numbers, it takes 14 characters to store a phone number. So we'll put 14 there. Let's also store a fax. We'll make that 14 characters. Let's see what else. Email. These days, email is just about more important than phones and faxes. Emails can get pretty big. Let's leave up to 50 characters for that. How about that? Now, we've added just about all the fields we need to store a general company and contact, phone, fax, etc. We may decide that, okay, as we're designing this, we forgot something. We want to put in a company. Let's say we want to go up here and put a country after the zip. Let's say we want to put a country. We're dealing with people outside. How will I get space? I'll erase this other, I'll erase phone if I want to type country here. I can press the F3 key to push down some space. Then I can write in country. And I could give that, some number of characters, however long I think a country is. Or I can press F4 to suck up a line. Just like F1 and F2 insert and delete characters, F3 and F4 insert lines, and F4 deletes them. F3 inserts space, downwards, F4 pulls it up. Very important. This is a brand new database. And what's very important is that I can only push these things down and move things around like this if I have not added even one single record of data. As soon as I add the first company in my database, as soon as there's an actual record on file with someone's name, a company name, address, whatever, I could come here to this define fields screen, and if I press F3, nothing's going to happen. It's just going to stay there. It doesn't matter if I've forgotten a country name and I really want a country, I'll just put it down here. It doesn't matter where country goes. I could put it here, and that's okay, and give it, 20 characters. That's fine. It doesn't matter that I can't push things down or up, because this is just an organizational thing for your own eye, for your own sanity, to look at everything and see it in the right order, and name, company, address, city, state, city. It doesn't matter that company is way over here. Country is way over here. When you get down to it, you can actually print this country right below the city, state, and zip. You can put it on the screen right below. It doesn't matter that it's another field way far down, that it's not located right near the other things. You could place anything wherever you want. I'm going to get rid of that field. And let me explain this. Why did I type this up here? I typed name underscore first. That's a little awkward, isn't it? I did that just to show you something. That's not the way I would normally do it. But you remember I told you that Filepro can refer to each field as its field number or as its field heading or its field name. Well, because I could say, let's say I want to say, the first name is equal to Robert, and just pop that in there. I could actually do that on a processing table. I could say the first name is equal to Robert. Well, I want to say name. Let's say I did this. If I don't have the underscores, how could I refer to first name? If I said name space, it's going to hit that space, and Filepro won't know the difference between this name and this name. To them, it's the same. To Filepro, it's the same field, because it stops at the space. Spaces are very important, and that demarcates an end of a field, basically, in terms of its heading or in terms of its name. So if I want to be able to refer to something, realize that it stops at the first space. So we would actually put something here, like an underline. Now name underscore first equal to something is Filepro is going to find that. And name by itself, it still knows is this field. But we can also put name there. But you know what? I'm not even going to do either of that. I'm going to just do it the way I would normally do it. I will suck these two guys up, and I'll push them down again, and I'll type in first name. I'll make that 10 characters, and I'll type in last name. I'll make that 15 characters. Now you can see that that's unique. Filepro will, if I ever say first is equal to something, Filepro could certainly find that, and it could certainly find last. And they're unique. They're unique enough so that Filepro can find them. With the name and name, that was a duplication, you would have a problem. And that becomes very important later on. Believe me, it will become important when you have 10 fields so that all look exactly the same. Maybe you have 10 line items on an invoice, and they each have a quantity for each line item. You can't write QTY on each field because you would not be able to refer to it very easily. However, this is just for demonstration. You can do anything you want on this define files, and Filepro will work. There are just some things that later on down the road you want to be able to do, and so if you start with a good convention, that's the way to go. Also, I recommend that you always use proper letters in terms of capitalization, and either capitalize everything or don't. Try and keep some conventionality to it, some convention or some schema to it, so that your Filepro tables look right. Now you'll notice at the bottom of the screen it says press escape to record this, to record everything we've done. That's only on Unix. I'll press escape. Okay, now it's changed the prompts now, and I can press X to exit this program. When I press X, it says, okay, do you want to have a screen for all this data? In other words, a defaulted screen that just has all these fields already on it, so you can just start entering data right away? Sure. I wanted to make a screen for you. Do you want a report that can print with all these names and fields on it right away? Sure, take that. Do I want to build indexes? Not right now. No. Do I want to do anything with qualifiers? No, not right now. But now I'm going to keep rolling around in these fields. As I hit enter, the way to get out of this screen, it says it on the bottom again, press escape to record, to record this, so to continue. So I'll press escape. Now I'm back at the main menu, and I've created that database. If I go in again and I type in V, there's the VG database, and here it is. That's what we've created, and it stayed there just the way we created it. Now because we created no records in it, I can go down here and I could add something in the middle to it. But because I don't want to do that right now, I can press the break key, that actually will break and stop any addition I made. I'm back to just the way it was when I found it. Again, that's if I update something and I make a lot of changes and then I say, oh, I don't want those changes, I press the break key in Unix. And on Windows, I would press Control-C. So let me show you this difference. Again, there's a break key got me out of that because I don't want to change anything there. Let's go over to Windows just really quick so you can see this difference. This is pretty much the only difference you're going to see in Filepro. Here's the Windows version. Let me just go here for a minute so this looks a little bit easier. Okay. Now we're on the Windows Filepro version, and if I go in here to define files, I believe I already have a VG customers built or something. So I'll go into VG customers. Here I am, and I press update, and I'm going to go change these files around. So same deal. I can press F3 or F4, pull things around until I add a record. Now, let's say I press escape, and I'm ready to leave. I'll press X. You see at the bottom of this screen, which is the one where we got to build a default screen and a default report, it now says press escape, just one escape to record this. And instead of saying press del to exit or the break key, it says press Control-C. So if I wanted to actually record this, I would press escape, just one of them. That's really the only thing you're going to have to remember between Filepros on Linux and Filepro on Windows. Okay, last thing, as we go into this file, if I go back into this file, VG, and you remember I showed you that you can press the F3 key and the F4 key. Well, how did I know that? Very simple. On Linux or on Windows, you press Alt F10, and it shows you a screen of all the help key, all the keys that you can press. There's an insert line and delete line. It says F3 and F4. And I pressed Alt F10 to get there. Alt F10. Now, if I go back to the Linux and I go into Filepro, now I'll go to my file. And anywhere in Filepro, wherever you are, if you press the proper key sequence to get to the help file, it'll bring it to you. On Linux, it's escape ? That's the only thing that isn't really on the screen, is how to get to these help keys. What keys do what inside file? Again, on Linux, it is escape ? And by the way, you noticed I didn't have to be in update mode. I don't have to be here to press it. It'll work here too. Escape ? It pretty much works everywhere in Filepro. If you're in Linux, you press escape ? If you're in Windows, you press Alt F10. Okay, and that gives you those help screens. All right, that's pretty much it for define files. Now, by the way, this file, just because it's a customer file, that's not our entire database. We will eventually go define a file for our sending out invoices to these people. We will define a screen so it shows us different things about their company, how much money do they owe us, and so forth. All of it becomes one application, and it's all done by defining different Filepro files. And again, these Filepro files are not really a file. They're a big collection of files inside a directory that has that name. When we go to define file, all these names right here, including the VG customers, is a directory, or a folder. Directory and folder mean exactly the same thing. This is a directory, and inside that directory are lots of different little files that make up our Filepro database. Again, you don't need to really know those file names or anything like it. That's how you define files in Filepro, and our first one is going to be the VG customers file. And we will start using that file to add screens and other things and build our application. We'll just build an accounting application to literally take money from these people or send money to them and so forth. We'll build everything we need to do that. Then we'll move on to lesson 2 when you're ready, or lesson 4, or whatever it is, the very next lesson in the chapter.